What's up guys, it's me Jeremy, and it's that time of the month again, time for the new patch. And as usual, I'm here with my rundown and analysis of all of the major changes on patch 5.10. Let's get started. First off, Echo is being released in this patch. He's a super cool champion that is quite difficult to play, but has a lot of strategic potential and a really unique kit, so I definitely recommend checking him out. Cassiopeia has also received a small nerf in the form of a tiny change to her passive and a nerf to her mana refund amount on her Twin Fangs. Overall, this hurts her early laning a decent amount since her mana as well as her sustain will be lowered a little bit, so it should make her a bit less of a dominant pick early on, while still keeping her quite strong overall in the later phases of the game. Karma has also received a huge update in the form of having her passive get its cooldown lowered faster, while her W now also has a higher AP ratio, can target monsters, and the root lasts for longer when used with Mantra now. Her shield also costs less mana and has a lower cooldown, but shields for a tiny bit less, while the shield with Mantra gives a huge shield to the main target and overall shields everyone for a bit more. In total, these changes are definitely something I would consider to be a buff. Her late game utility is increased by a decent amount, and the faster uptime on her Mantra is really significant. I think we can expect to see some more Karma after this patch, as it helps her scaling late game by a decent amount, which was one of her main problems as a champion, without really hurting her mid game too much. Reksai has had her base health decreased by a little over 40. This makes her early game much more punishable, and she wasn't really the strongest early game jungler out there already, so it makes her a lot more vulnerable to solo invades as a whole, and should help weaken her a tiny bit, since it hurts her level 3 and level 4 ganks, and especially 2v2s by a decent amount, and so she can get punished hard in the early game for it, especially with a nice counter gank. This change does a decent job of toning her down, while also still keeping her kit relatively strong, so she'll definitely still be really good. Ryze has also received some major buffs in the form of increased duration and fluidity of his passive, while also increased damage on his overload and increased duration on his ultimate. I think these changes actually give Ryze a pretty nice leg up, and so hopefully we'll be able to see him some more. However, he remains ridiculously difficult to play just kind of overall, so he'll probably still be reasonably bad in solo queue, but he could see a rise up in competitive play. Next up, we have the item changes. The Ancient Coin gold item path has been buffed by giving more gold and increasing the range on the gold collection rate. In addition, the upgraded versions have had their stats slightly buffed, and the cooldown of Talisman has been lowered by 20 seconds. Coin has always suffered due to the fact that it gives no meaningful combat stats, but Talisman is super strong, and the increased gold and lowered cooldown on the active is an awesome buff and should definitely make this item strong again on utility supports. Ardent Sensor has also been buffed in that it gives less attack speed, but now grants plus 30 bonus magic damage on hit, making it a lot more useful of a stat buff. Although the stats on the item itself, for the support or whoever builds it, kinda suck, and so it makes the item hard to make it worth fitting into a build path, giving 30 magic damage on hit as well as some attack speed is extremely powerful, and I think definitely makes this item viable now, especially in compositions with a lot of auto attackers that can benefit from the buff. Blade of the Rune King and Cutlass's active have had their ranges increased by 100, which is a nice buff to the item and makes the active way easier to proc since it will be a lot closer to a champion's auto attack range now. In addition, quite a lot of the masteries in the utility tree have been changed. Meditation is now deeper in the tree and restores % missing mana instead of giving a flat mana regen, which overall increases the mana regen by a ton. Expanded Mind gives flat mana instead of maximum mana now. This change sucks for Ryze, but for other champions it's great, since in the early game that's really the only time there's an issue with mana, so the flat mana is actually pretty strong. Inspiration has had its XP rate increased, but it still kinda sucks due to the way that if you actually need XP from this mastery, getting flat experience will be pretty bad since you are likely multiple levels in to where the flat experience amount is really negligible to you. Bandit has been buffed a ton for melee champions and now gives 8 gold when you attack an enemy champion on a 5-second cooldown. This could lead to some really interesting builds actually on melee champions, since you can rack up a few hundred gold or so from this mastery quite easily. Intelligence has had its cooldown reduction on active items doubled. Now, this mastery would be good, and realistically it can be decent, but active items already have such a short cooldown on them that it's really not that big of a deal unless you're going for some strategical team play with this mastery. And lastly, Wanderer has had its movement speed amount changed to a flat movement speed bonus. In comparison, it now gives 20 flat movement speed from 5% bonus movement speed. And 20 flat move speed is 5 less move speed than Boots 1, while the 5% move speed would give about 16 to 17 or so flat move speed at level 1, but would scale up to about 25 to 30 movement speed as the game went on. So it's a little bit stronger in the early game, and it's a little bit weaker in the late game now. In addition, super minions have had their magic resistance reduced by 10, so mages should have an easier time clearing the creep waves after an inhibitor goes down. This should make defending while inhibs are down a decent amount easier, so it's a pretty nice change. And jungle camps now reset at a slightly shorter range, so watch out and be careful when leashing and kiting camps, since they will reset sooner now. And lastly, Hexakill on the Twisted Tree line will be coming out on this patch. It's a pretty goofy game mode, and I had some fun with it when I tried it out on the PBE, so definitely give it a shot.
Hey guys, it's me, Jeremy. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, definitely make sure to hit that like button so I can tell, as well as you can check me out on Facebook and Twitter at Gaming Curios. And check me out on Twitch too, I do weekly streams. And if you really enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, as well as you can check out some of my other content up above. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.